Hello and welcome back. As promised, I'm covering the final Tales from the Crypt movie, titled Ritual. This movie is widely regarded as one of the worst entries in the Tales from the Crypt franchise. Personally, though, I think it's better than Bordello Blood, and that probably has more to do with my dislike of Dennis Miller than anything else. So I'm going to recap the story and pause at certain points to talk about some behind-the-scenes facts. As always, I'll put links in the description so you can rent or buy the movie for yourself. As you might have seen in the intro, this video and all my others, excluding my gaming content, are available on my new Patreon page. I did this so there's an ad-free way for viewers like you to enjoy my content. There will also be exclusive videos over there, and the lowest tier is only $2 a month, which gives you access to everything. I'm also planning on restarting my Reset podcast soon. So if you want to join, the links are in the description. But with all that out of the way, let's get to the final movie from the Crypt Keeper, Ritual. Our story opens up on a swinging party. A waitress walks up and whispers something about tonight to Dr. Peter Winsvold. Winsvold is skittish at the single word and tries to protest. Their short conversation is cut even shorter when he notices a man listening in. The waitress walks away and gives a drink to Dr. Matthew Hope as he listens to a young woman talking about her vacation. But Hope has his attention on two other things. She gives him a card before her husband joins the conversation. He excuses himself and walks over to notice Superintendent Archibald watching a woman dancing poolside. Hope says that she's a work of art, and Archibald comments that he'll own her someday. Hope says that he thinks she isn't for sale, while Archibald half jokes that everything is for sale. Paul Claybourne gives a speech about his younger brother Wesley's birthday party that he's throwing, and him being unable to join due to feeling under the weather. The woman Archibald was drooling over, named Carol Lamb, notices that shutters on a nearby building are open, almost as if someone is inside watching over the party. It's revealed that Wesley is inside, lying in bed drenched in a cold sweat with flashes of rituals plaguing his mind. It's unclear if Wesley is cursed or reliving something traumatic. We cut to nighttime, and the waitress from earlier enters Paul's bedroom, silently removing hair from a comb. We then catch back up with Dr. Winsvold working in his lab while trying to deal with the slowly rising heat by sticking his head in a lab fridge. The waitress walks into Winsvold's lab, and it's here we find out her name is Dory. Winsvold says that what she wants to do is too dangerous. Dory reminds him that he said he could do a test to find out who the father of the baby is. She tempts him with seduction, and in a shock that literally comes to no one, the doctor folds like a cheap suit. Dory gets the test results and seems pleased. But as she exits the lab, she flees from an unseen entity. The power in the lab begins to rapidly flicker, samples boil, and Winsvold's skin begins to bubble and blister. As the unseen presence gets closer and closer to Dory, Winsvold begins to melt where he stands as the electrical components in the lab explode due to the high temperature. The unseen entity kills Dory as Winsvold drops over dead, literally from being cooked from the inside out, as his lab burns all around him. Paul and other onlookers rush to the lab after hearing screams. Paul goes into the lab to find Winsvold dead on the floor, but the lab and the doctor are unburned, as if everything snapped back to normal just after he died. We are then shown Dr. Alice Dodgson. She's rushing to the hospital after getting a call about one of her child patients. The young girl is burning up with a fever and barely able to breathe. Dodgson examines her, and the little girl struggles to whimper out the words, "Help me." Dodgson exclaims that she will, ordering the nurse to up the amount of medication before rushing down the hall to catch Dr. Javits before he leaves. She's trying to get his approval to try a drug called rapamycin, an experimental drug that hasn't passed FDA approval. Javits expressly forbids it before leaving. But Jennifer Grey thinks this is an episode of Grey's Anatomy and gives the child the medicine anyway. She stays in the room with the child, falling asleep in a chair next to her bed. But the child succumbs to her illness in the middle of the night. Dr. Dodgson tries to save the young girl but fails. She's left troubled with nightmares of the young girl. She reads a letter from Dr. Javits, saying that she's an outstanding doctor and the young girl would have passed away no matter what. But since she disobeyed his orders and gave the child rapamycin, she compromised the hospital's legal standing, and that her medical license will be suspended for the next 2 years. It's clear that she did what she thought was best for the young girl, but she was too little, too late. The cold hard fact is, no medication would have saved the child, but Dodgson was willing to wager her career for the opportunity for even a small chance at saving her. She cries not because she lost her license, but because she lost the child. The next day, she sees an ad in the paper about hospice care with no medical license needed, but she calls Dr. Javits for a reference. Knowing that Dodgson was a great doctor and more a victim of legal circumstance and office politics, he gives her the recommendation and she flies to Jamaica. This movie, like all other movies from Tales from the Crypt, started as a standalone script that only later had the Crypt Keeper added to help sell it to viewers. That's why the tone feels unusually serious and humorless compared to other Crypt entries. The truth is, it's actually loosely inspired by I Walked with a Zombie from 1943. And like many others, I missed this movie entirely. Even with big-name actors like Jennifer Grey and Tim Curry, Grey taking this role surprised a lot of people after Dirty Dancing. Audiences didn't expect to see her in a slow-burn voodoo horror movie, especially one that leans more psychological than flashy. The hospital scenes and lab death were meant to establish a grounded, almost prestige horror vibe, which makes the later tonal whiplash even more noticeable. Tim Curry reportedly took the role of Dr. Hope specifically because it wasn't a loud, over-the-top villain. At this point in his career, he was actively trying to avoid being typecast as the crazy guy, even though that's what audiences loved him for. Ironically, his restrained, sleazy performance stands out more because everyone expects him to go bigger. Several cast and crew members later mentioned that Curry was extremely professional on set and was loved by everyone involved, and is picked up by a driver named JB. She arrives at Paul's house. Paul makes a joke about welcoming her to Wonderland, since her name is Alice. The two talk. Paul mentions that she's perfect for his brother's needs. He reveals that Javits mentioned why she lost her license, and Paul thinks it was an admirable sacrifice for a doctor, just the kind of thing his brother might need. He continues to say that his condition isn't what it seems. It's revealed that Wesley believes he's some form of zombie. Not like the monsters from the Romero films, but more in a local Jamaican sense. Wesley believes he's been cursed by a voodoo witch doctor that's controlling his mind. Dr. Dodgson, who for ease of reading I am going to call Alice from here on out, reviews Wesley's medical records when Carol enters the lab, offering to be her assistant as she was for Dr. Winsvoldem. Alice agrees, noting that there are gaps in Wesley's medical records. Carol says that they must have been deleted by Winsvoldem before his death. Alice is concerned and asks how he died, and Carol says the medical examiner said it was a simple heart attack. Later that night, while Alice walks the halls of the house, she's attacked and tied up by the house staff. She's covered in dozens of spiders. Carol comes into the room and is seemingly killed using a machete by a member of staff, only for Alice to bolt up in bed. The horrific events all seem to be a nightmare. She sits up in bed, soaked in sweat and gasping for breath over how real it felt. She stumbles into her bathroom and flicks on a light, only to see a voodoo trinket. Later that day, Alice goes to visit Carol and finds that, unlike her dream, she seems just fine. Very, fine. Anyway, Carol and Alice go to visit Wesley. It's clear that he's been up all night drinking. He tells Alice that he's fine and doesn't need any doctors. Alice notices the spider necklace before Wesley nearly faints. She tries to examine him, but he says what she thinks is wrong with him isn't what it seems, before ordering her and Carol to leave. Alice gets in contact with JB again, who mentions that his father was a voodoo priest. The two talk about Wesley's issue on their way to meet him. JB says a voodoo curse is like a sickness for the soul, a sickness that no medicine the doctor could provide can cure. In the middle of their car ride, an unseen person uses an object of JB's to inflict pain and hallucinations, causing JB to run his Jeep off the road, nearly killing both of them in the process. Alice elects to drive the rest of the way. JB's father meets with her. She tries to get his advice on what's happening to Wesley, but the voodoo doctor says he is unable to help, as the person doing this to Wesley is bigger than him. Alice is confused. JB clarifies that he's more powerful in the ways of voodoo than his father. Mid-conversation, the roof of the shrine begins to collapse, sending JB's father into a bout of fright. But just as with JB, it's all in his mind. They calm him down as it becomes clear that he's unable to help. Later that night, Caro and Alice attend a small party. Caro introduces Alice to Dr. Hope, revealing he's not much of a doctor anymore, but more of a researcher. Caro says the only thing he's interested in researching is boom boom, before everyone begins to laugh. Alice, being innocent and a bit naive, asks what boom boom is before everyone laughs even harder. Caro explains what boom boom is by pointing at herself. Finally getting the joke, Alice sheepishly laughs. They have dinner, and Alice comments about the empty space. Hope remarks that Paul always sets a place for Wesley every meal just in case he's ever well enough to join. He doesn't want to exclude his brother just for feeling unwell. Hope tells Alice of the many misfortunes that Paul and Wesley have endured over the last year, and discovers a rash of murders have happened to both their family and Caro's. Wesley, feeling better, joins the others for dinner, electing to sit next to Alice. The two talk. Wesley, being nicer this time around, asks how she's liking Jamaica. Alice smiles and replies that she's learning something new every day, saying that today she learned what boom boom means. The joke causes Wesley to choke slightly on his soup. As they dine, JB tries to break into a shed on the estate. Meanwhile, Wesley plays piano while Hope tries to make boom boom with Caro, only to have his hand playfully slapped away. JB finds his personal artifact used to harm him in the shed, the mere sight of which seems to cause him great pain. Caro, feeling the groove of the party, begins to dance on the table. The young woman on vacation makes a snide remark about Caro and tries to get Alice to agree. But Alice says that in fact she thinks Caro is a great person. The vacationing girl's boyfriend gets into Caro's moves and joins her, causing a Jamaican man to grow jealous and grab him. The small tiff breaks up the party. The vacationing woman and her boyfriend drive home. She lectures him about dancing with Caro. She blows a tire on the car, and when the boyfriend goes to fix the flat, he's attacked and killed. The woman flees from the car and runs into the woods in a panic. We then go back to Alice, who is scared by JB. He warns her to leave tonight, that it's worse than he thought, and she might be next on the chopping block. He explains that they are more powerful than he thought, while telling her that they inflicted the same sickness onto him that they gave Wesley. Alice tries to explain that she won't run until she figures this all out, and when she turns back, JB has already left. The next morning, Alice goes to get cardio with Caro, inviting her on a jog. Noticing that she slept with the man who started the fight the night prior, Caro and Alice go for a jog, and after Alice stumbles, they find the body of the vacationing woman lying dead on the trail. The superintendent arrests the big man, thinking that the scratches are defense wounds inflicted by the dead woman, but Caro speaks up, saying she inflicted the scratches. The superintendent, having a deep interest in Caro, cracks a hurtful joke at their expense. After finding out about the murders over the last year and the most recent one last night, Alice goes to pack her things and leave. Paul tries to convince her to stay, but Alice shows him the wrecked lab. Paul pleads with her to stay, saying Wesley is the only family he has left and that Jamaica is a beautiful place. Wesley walks in, saying it was a beautiful place until their father destroyed it. Alice is convinced that Wesley has been going on a killing spree due to his brash and rapidly changing behavior. Going from being standoffish and nearly violent to calm at the drop of a hat is a very clear red flag to her. Wesley explains that he blacks out ever since he went to a ceremony where the tribe seems to have done something to him. Alice relates that she wants a sample of Wesley's blood, something that up to this point he has refused to provide. Wesley, knowing that Alice might be his last chance to undo what has been done to him, relents and rolls up his sleeve. Caro takes Alice and the sample, but Caro is concerned that they're being followed. It appears that she's having visions of things unseen to others, just like JB and Wesley. Caro is too busy looking behind her to notice a truck in the road. She narrowly avoids hitting it before crashing her moped off the side of the road, dumping herself and Alice onto the roadside. Caro says the man rode them off the road, but Alice says there was no man. Caro says she knows what she saw, but Alice tells her she's having visions just like the others. Caro says if she is, she doesn't want to know about it, half joking that it would ruin her day. In the meantime, at the lab, the woman says the blood samples arrived too late to be done today. They will be analyzed by the night shift and should be ready first thing in the morning. Alice and Caro visit the man she slept with in jail. Alice is concerned that if Carol has something, the man she slept with might have contracted it as well. Carol brushes dirt off her leg from the moped accident as the superintendent feverishly looks on, but Carol makes it clear that avenue is steeply closed. They meet up with Dr. Hope and Wesley. Alice talks with Hope about the sickness. Carol convinces Alice to go swimming in her underwear, much to Hope's hopefulness. The big man Carol slept with is released from jail, with the guard saying some woman paid him off and she's outside waiting for him in a car, but that he needs to punch the guard to make it look like he escapes. The big man punches the guard and runs outside, only to be gunned down by the jealous superintendent, who coldly tucks the gun and rolls up his window. That night, Alice has a nightmare about Wesley being taken over by evil forces and killing her in her sleep. She's woken up from the nightmare by Dr. Hope. The fright sends her into a seizure. She believes she contracted the same illness as the others and goes to the lab to find out that Wesley has an extremely mutated norovirus, converting RNA to DNA at a rapid rate. She asks the lab to run the same test on her blood. After the blood draw, Dr. Hope calls the lab and tells Alice he might have some idea about what's happening to her. He draws blood from his cat and labels the vial FELV. The door opens and Hope believes that it's Alice, but in fact it's the superintendent. Hope is startled. The big man says that Paul is going to be selling his estate soon, and the superintendent doesn't want to take any chances. Hope says that he has a stake in it too, and that helping Alice won't jeopardize either of their stakes in the selling of the land. Hope tries to get past the superintendent, but is stabbed. We cut back to the hospital where Alice reveals to Carol that she's infected with the same norovirus as her and Wesley. Carol shares the news that the big man she was sleeping with the night before was shot and killed outside the police station. The virus explanation, RNA converting to DNA, feline leukemia crossing species, is famously mocked by horror fans. Even supporters admit it feels like two different scripts smashed together. This middle section is often cited as where the film lost momentum, because it keeps introducing new ideas without resolving old ones, making the mystery harder to track on a first watch. Overall, the story at this point feels like it was rushed and crunched in for content rather than context. The idea of RNA was fairly new in the public zeitgeist at the time. Back then, it wasn't widely known as common knowledge. The truth is, the original script would have only run about an hour of screen time, well under the normal 80 to 90 minutes of a traditional film. Instead of adding anything interesting or humorous, the writers padded the runtime with extra fluff to ensure it reached a theatrical length. The end result only made the movie harder to follow, as shots linger slightly too long and things tend to drag from act to act. They return to Wesley and Paul's house. Alice says that there must be a worker upset that they will lose their job when the estate sells, and must be murdering people to prevent it from happening. Wesley is upset because he knew nothing about it, and he goes to confront his brother. The two have a heated exchange. Wesley says he's going to uproot all the people who live there and work with them and doom them back to poverty. Paul says it's not like that. To make a point, Wesley yells at a member of staff to get off the property, then says to her that he would never do that. But she should know that's what Paul is doing to her. After she leaves, the two continue to argue, until Wesley says that he won't allow Paul to do this to all the people who live and work with them. Alice goes to find the member of staff Wesley yelled at, a sweet woman named Violet. Violet is torn up over seeing the two brothers, who she's only ever known to love each other, screaming such hateful words at one another. Alice convinces her to leave with her to seek some outside help. They go to see JB's father once more. They talk about the dust used to turn a person into a voodoo zombie. The voodoo doctor says it requires a lot of hate, something that he is in short supply of. Alice asks if there's a way to reverse it or if it's permanent. The voodoo doctor says there's a powder used to reverse it, but it must be given in time. Otherwise, it's worthless. Violet and the doctor take Alice to a ceremony. They chant and dance, and Alice has a vision. Flashes are shown of the cat in FELV. With that, Alice begins putting the pieces together. She thanks Violet for taking her and rushes to leave. She tests her blood and finds out that FELV is a form of feline leukemia. Wesley enters her lab and asks why she's so happy. She says she not only figured out what they are infected with, but that she found a cure. It turns out that Dr. Hope mutated the virus to infect humans, but Alice found a way to reverse it. The only question left is why. Carol, Alice, and Wesley sit down and slowly begin putting all the pieces together. They come up with the idea that Paul always wanted to sell the land but couldn't because Wesley left in his will that he would give his part of the land back to the workers who have taken care of him and their families. Paul hired Hope to make the virus to make him sick. When the workers found out, or if other people involved began to go back on the idea, they would be killed off. And the superintendent was brought in to sweep the murders under the rug. Alice says Paul's plan wasn't to kill his brother, but to make it look like he wasn't well enough to make his own decisions, both medically and legally. He was keeping Wesley sick to get power of attorney. The next day, Alice makes her power move. She goes into Paul's office and says that she found what was wrong with his brother. Paul seems unhappy by the news. She continues, telling him that Wesley is so well, in fact, that he's down at the courthouse removing Paul's power of attorney, and that she called her friends back in New York, telling them to call her tomorrow just in case she ends up dead in a ditch. Paul smirks and says that she's as crazy as his brother. Alice leaves, and Paul looks disgusted as he picks up the phone in a rush. Wesley is about to go into the courthouse, but is stopped by the superintendent and 2 policemen. He is arrested for no given reason and taken away. Carol goes to find Wesley and Alice, but they're not around. She rushes to Wesley's part of the house, only to find it empty. She's jump scared by a returning Alice. They leave the estate in a rush, but the road is blocked by the superintendent and the police. They turn them around, saying the road is impassable. The 2 turn back to the estate and find a secret exit. They run on a back road, but Carol is unable to keep up. Alice and Carol agree that Alice is faster alone. So Alice continues on her own and is nearly caught. She narrowly avoids being seen by a passing truck filled with voodoo tribe members. She is again jump scared by JB. He says that he knows where they took Wesley, and he'll take her there. The tribe dances with Wesley at the center. The voodoo doctor of the tribe hands Paul a vial of dust, and Paul pours it into his palm. He tells Wesley he didn't want to do it this way. Wesley tells him to go to hell before Paul blows the dust into Wesley's face, causing him to lock up. They place Wesley, who's still alive, into a shallow grave. JB and Alice sneak into the dancers. Alice grabs Paul, putting a knife to his neck while JB unmasks the voodoo queen, revealing it to have been Carol all along. Alice calls her a bitch. Carol then uses her otherworldly powers to turn the tide. She uses the nearby fire to burn JB alive. She then makes Alice believe there are snakes in her hair, causing her to drop the knife, but both are just vivid hallucinations. Alice asks why, and Carol reveals that she is, in fact, a Claybourne herself. Paul and Wesley's father got her mother pregnant and killed her after the birth to hide the fact from his wife. The entire plan was Carol's revenge, and that Paul is the same, impregnating a member of staff and having her killed. Like father, like son. She makes the comment that at least their father waited for the baby to be born first. She tells Paul that the police will find him and Wesley dead, and the estate will go to the next living Claybourne, meaning her. Paul says nobody will believe her, and she simply says, "DNA, my brother," before ordering one of her followers to stab Paul. She tells Alice that she actually likes her, and that she hung a doll in her room and smashed up her lab, tried to scare her, but nothing worked. She reveals that she infected others, turning them into zombies and forcing them to kill all in the same way on her behalf. She offers Alice a deal: blow the zombie dust into JB's face, and she'll not only let her live, but they can be the best of friends and continue a life of luxury in Jamaica. But instead, Alice, already being cured, blows the dust into Carol's face, causing the shocked onlookers to drop their grip on JB. They fight off the tribe and dig up Wesley. They rush him to JB's father for the cure. Months later, Wesley and Alice get married on the estate, and so too do the superintendent and the zombified Carol, as the screen fades to black. Overall, I don't think this was a great movie, nor was it worthy of being Tales from the Crypt's final film outing. My only hope is that one day it will no longer be the final movie. There has been significant buzz about HBO making a new Tales from the Crypt series, with the previous one being so beloved and locked in legal issues. It might never be revived, but a whole new series could be in the works. A modern series would be more than welcome by myself and most fans, but whether or not that happens remains to be seen. Until then, we have many more episodes we can talk about. But that's all I have for you in this video. Again, if you don't want ads on these videos, feel free to check out my Patreon page And I want to give a special thank you to our channel members and to all of you who take the time to watch these videos. It means a lot. Oh, and I should have at least one more video out before the end of the year. But until then, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.